It sounds like the plot of a B-grade movie, indestructible superbugs taking over our hospitals. But as we've been hearing and reading in the news this week, it's far from fiction. Our hospitals are riddled with these superbugs, virulent germs resistant to just about every known antibiotic. And frighteningly, our hospitals are up there with the world's worst. If that's not enough bad news, these horror bugs are now being picked up in the general community. But rather than attack this problem head-on, until now, Australian hospitals have been trying to play it down. So we decided to find out for ourselves. The results? Well, judge for yourselves. In our biggest hospitals, there's a filthy secret.
There are many thousands of people per year in Australia who are at severe risk, and a proportion of those people die.
Across Australia, our hospitals are making the sick sicker. In secret, we tested for superbugs, deadly bacteria resistant to most antibiotics. We swabbed surfaces and sent the swabs to England for analysis. The results will shock you. The very places where we should be cured have become a haven for germs that kill and maim.
And what about your toes? Because you lost a few of those, didn't
my toes are fine.
Yep.
Just a little bit hard to walk, but it's getting there.
Right.
At 40, Rod was in perfect health. At 41, he's lucky to be alive.
It's going to take me a little while longer, but I'm getting there.
Last October, he was infected by a new and very aggressive strain of the golden staph bug known as MRSA.
And the sensation's good?
Yeah, the sensation's good, yeah. I can feel hot and cold water. And
Within 2 days, Rod was in a coma. He would spend the next 4 months in hospital. The bug attacked his heart and brain and left his body ravaged.
Yeah, you were pretty sick there for a while. It's come along nicely, hasn't it?
So you thought you had a gastro problem. You ended up having heart surgery twice, brain surgery. You were in a coma for 3.5 weeks. You ended up having some fingers and toes amputated, and you went blind in one eye for some time.
I didn't know a bug could be that deadly. On one stage I was thinking I was never going to get better. Everything just snowballed.
How close did you come to dying?
I believe very close. Like within 48 hours, you can be healthy and then you can be nearly dead.
At Canberra Hospital's Infectious Diseases Department, the man in charge, Dr. Peter Collignon, prepares to show me one of our deadliest germs.
All these blue dots in clumps are the individual golden staph germs.
Under his microscope is a potential killer. It's called MRSA, and it has spread to virtually every Australian hospital.
What a superbug means is a germ that doesn't respond to the standard antibiotics that we normally would have been able to rely on killing it if it caused infection in a person.
Decades of overprescription of antibiotics have created these smart bugs. They're virtually bulletproof. In years past, if one antibiotic didn't work, another would do the job. But that luxury is fast ending. How far away is doomsday?
For some people, it's already here. By doomsday meaning a germ that we have no antibiotics to treat, we already have some people like that even in Australia.
I'm just lost for words at the moment because I just saw such horrific sights of what the infection caused. It's just horrific what it does to the human body. It just ravages.
Betty Mackenzie's husband, Colin, was admitted to hospital in 2003. He'd been seriously hurt in a bike accident, but after 3 operations, he contracted a superbug. Already seriously ill, it further weakened his defences.
It was just heartbreaking to see your husband go through that. That, you know, he used to cry constantly and say, you know, he didn't want to live because, you know, who wants to live with a bag full of faeces hanging off your chest because of this massive infection? It was just horrific.
Colin Mackenzie died, one of 5,000 Australians, and that's a conservative estimate, who are killed by superbugs each year.
She was a very stoic, independent sort of a person, and it was very painful to see such an independent person get to the stage where she had to rely on us and others.
Viv Hyland's wife, Margaret, was hospitalised with a blood clot. She too ended up catching a killer bacteria.
She was sedated heavily for 5 weeks, and I had to make the decision to turn the machines off. That was the most painful thing that I have ever done in my life. And I guess, even though I know in my own heart that nothing could be done, I still feel guilt about that. I guess I will till I die. But I had no choice.
It's a worldwide problem. In Britain, the failure of their health system to combat the spread of superbugs was a major election issue this year. And this woman's story was headline news. Was there a time when you thought you might never get out and enjoy your balcony, this great view?
I know, there was a time when I actually didn't think I was going to get up, at all. I thought I might be in a wheelchair.
Leslie Ash should be dead. As it is, she can barely walk. But she's grateful for her small steps.
Listen, I'm sorry to hear about you and Denzel splitting up.
Oh, it hadn't been going well for a while, you know.
You may remember Leslie as the vibrant star of the English TV series Men Behaving Badly.
Ta-da!
But everything changed for her a year ago when she was admitted to hospital with a punctured lung. She was given an epidural, then later released to recuperate at home. But by now, she'd been infected by a hospital superbug.
I got home and I wasn't feeling very well, really hot, feverish. And I put myself to bed. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, I tried to get up to go to the loo, and I just couldn't move my legs. I was paralysed basically from the chest down.
You think that anyone going into hospital is quite justified in being frightened?
Yeah, I think so. It's only since I found out how common MRSA or MSSA is, that's where I get angry, because really it could have all, just been sorted out 20 years ago, really. They've known about these superbugs and done nothing about it, really.
Just how riddled our hospitals are with superbugs is difficult to know. They're under no obligation to test and have no obligation to tell the public. So last week we chose 2 hospitals at random. We swabbed commonly used areas, public telephones, toilet doors, lift buttons and patient beds, and sent them for testing.
One of the hospitals we swabbed was Canterbury Hospital, and the results that have come back from the lab, they don't shock me, but they may shock the hospital, and they will certainly put people on alert who are going into that hospital, but they've got bugs in there, and those bugs will make you sick, and you need to look after your patients.
Lorraine Long is from the Medical Error Action Group. She helped take the swabs. And here are the results. MRSA was detected in almost 3/4 of the swabs taken at Sydney's Canterbury Hospital, with 3 places, this vending machine, this toilet, and this lift button, showing what our tester classifies as dangerously high levels of the killer bug. On the lift button, just 1 swab picked up 23 colonies. At Liverpool Hospital, the results were not as high, but still disturbing. A patient trolley was found to have dangerous levels. And 13 colonies of MRSA were found on this payphone, a level classified as highly dangerous. Is it fair to say that in some hospitals, these superbugs are completely out of control?
They're at much higher levels than anybody think would be reasonable. I mean, if you've got a hospital that might have 40 or 50% of MRSA, one would think that is too high. Particularly, we know is overseas in particular, they can get these numbers down to almost 0. And if they can do it there, why can't we do it here?
We come into an anterior room, so we do not come directly into the patient room, but into
in Holland, a country with a similar population to Australia, there are virtually no superbugs in hospitals.
Okay, rub it on your hands, and then after cleaning your hands, we go over and put on the isolation gear.
20 years ago, when the problem first appeared, they acted quickly.
But it's over the sleeves of the gown.
And the solution was staggeringly simple. Strict hospital hygiene and the immediate isolation of anyone suspected of carrying MRSA. Microbiologist Dr. Andreas Voss calls it search and destroy.
Search and destroy means that we actually actively look for people at risk for MRSA. If my isolation rooms are full, I cannot take a patient who's suspected for MRSA.
So you have a policy of zero tolerance?
Yes, it's absolutely zero tolerance.
We don't have national guidelines. There's no obligation on hospitals to even admit that they have MRSA, and screening is ad hoc. Can we ever win the battle against it?
You don't even know. If you don't have a national policy, if you do not have very clear guidelines of how to isolate patients, you will not win the battle.
In Australia, there are no uniform requirements for hospitals to admit they have killer bacteria, and therefore no pressure to do anything about it, including maintaining strict standards of hygiene. Yet the mere act of doctors and nurses washing their hands between patients reduces infection by up to 50%, as they've done here at Canberra Hospital.
I think to some degree we're tardy and even lazy as to what we do. Probably the biggest factor in hospitals that make these superbugs spread around, or any bugs, is the hands of staff. They're sort of almost the hidden weapon that we don't even realise we've got. And if we make sure our hands don't become the carriers of these superbugs and other bugs, by relatively simple procedures, we can make a lot of difference.
It sounds pretty extraordinary that doctors and nurses aren't washing their hands between patients.
There is a reticence to actually accept that we can be vehicles in causing a problem, and because we're almost in that denial, we don't do the things that everybody would almost expect that you would do routinely, and we know they're not done.
You've had great effect using debug in ICU, is that right?
Yeah, it's been really fantastic.
If anyone needs proof the solution is as simple as hand washing, visit hospitals where they're fighting MRSA. Here in intensive care at Austin Hospital in Melbourne, special alcohol wash, patient isolation and strict hygiene have slashed infection rates in half. But according to Professor Lindsay Grayson, it's of little good if the rest of the country doesn't follow suit.
At one level, you just got to admire those bugs because they're smarter than us by a long way. And then on the other, you think, well, how stupid are we that we've set up the conditions that have allowed these bugs to do what they're doing. Here's a superbug.
And the news is getting worse. This is a grim example of man's handiwork, a superbug that modern medicine cannot kill. It's completely untreatable.
This germ is multi-resistant to all the antibiotics that we would routinely use to treat this germ. So if you came into hospital with an infection with this germ, at the moment, there would be none of these antibiotics would work to help you. And for that reason, these are incredibly scary. Let's have a listen.
And remember Rodney? Well, here's what's truly frightening. He caught his flesh-eating bug outside of hospital, in the community. The bug is new and evolving. And what makes it so scary is it could strike any of us. You don't have to be sick to be vulnerable.
It's the sort of thing where you go home to your family and you say, we should all thank God we're alive, because live life while you can, because he was well, and within a space of a few days, was really on death's door.
For all our advances, superbugs are returning us to the medical dark ages. But there is nothing as archaic as doing nothing about them, especially when the solution is so simple.
I think it is a major misfortune and a problem for our country that we have people who die of infections that we know, if we'd done things differently, could have been prevented. And we need to do a lot more than we're doing now to make a difference and to stop these infections from occurring.
The 2 hospitals tested at random in our story gave written responses. They claim our testing process was flawed and say they have no confidence in the findings or the company that did the testing. They argue the bacteria detected could be perfectly harmless. The English Testing Laboratory says it stands by its results. Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes, segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.